Warning, this podcast is not for the faint of heart. We keep it real and raw and talk about issues that other podcasts wouldn't dare. This is the Truth of the Matter podcast with Dr. Spencer. Step into our world. What do you do if you fall in love with one of your kids' friends who's over 18? How do you handle getting caught in bed with your boss? Why do girls like bad boys? Are you burned out from an unbalanced career and personal life? Are you still working while your kids are telling you how their days went? Our passion is to help people in relationships, anyone you have a connection with in life, neighbors, coworkers, family, spouse, kids, yourself, and helping you achieve the work-life balance. Let's have some fun and let's get educated. This is the Truth of the Matter podcast. And now your host, Dr. Lamarr Renee Spencer.
Well, good morning or afternoon, everyone. It's Dr. Lamarr Renee Spencer, and you're on with the Truth of the Matter podcast with Dr. Spencer. So don't forget to follow me and subscribe and share the episodes. And I have a special guest on today. I'm not going to keep her, but Delanda McNair. And she had such an impressive story. Matter of fact, before we came on, we were talking about different things. And, like sometimes, and it may not be her story, but sometimes we get overwhelmed. And, we just been, it's like, okay, my cup has runneth over. And sometimes when it's running over, we still need to smile because at the end of the day, we're doing a ministry. We're helping other people. So again, I want to bring her on because her story was so impressive and her story really just touched my heart. And when I heard it, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, really? So I'm going to let her tell you about it because I'm sure some of you are probably going through the same thing. And if not, prayerfully, you may not go through the same thing. But at the end of the day, she's still smiling. And she heard me, I'm like going up like, I'm tired, this and the other. And she's still cool, calm, and collected. So Delanda, thank you for being on. I appreciate it. And so can you give us a little background about your story? I don't want to tell too much, but you tell us what happened and when.
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for the nice introduction, and thank you for the opportunity to share this story with you here on your platform. You made a comment about you're over there in your household, rah, 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 and I'm still calm and collective. It's funny because that's how I've always been. If before I get loud, I get quiet. So when I get quiet, that's when my sisters they're like looking at me like, okay, wait a minute, what's going on with you? So it's like the silence in me is what scares them. Because like you said, for the most part, and I don't know why, it's not like I said, well, let me just wear a smile so no one want to know. No, that's not it. I charge myself to smile. So much to the point that when I was in the office, I would have coworkers like, and they would call me D, what's going on? What you thinking about? What you smiling for? And I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I was. But see, what I would do at the office, because at the office, I knew I had to wear a certain face because certain things I was feeling, I didn't want my coworkers to realize I was feeling. Mm-hmm. So what I would do is I would fold my lips and it would make it look like I was smiling. So I permanently wore the face of like this. And so it looked like I was smiling, but I wasn't always smiling. Yeah. So that's where that started in the workplace with that. And then so as it relates to what happened is with my mother, it all began in 2012. Well, let me back up. Okay, so my mother, my father, my parents were married for about 35 and a half years. Mm-hmm. And in that 35th year, my father died 12 days before his 56th birthday. That was like in 96. So fast forward, my mother's learned to do everything on her own. And then I had one particular brother who lived pretty closely to my mother. So here and there, they would spend more time together because he was closer. So he died, that brother died at 46. in 2010. But the thing was, because my mother was there closer to him, there were certain medical things that he was dealing with that she got to see some of. And sometimes she would drive him to his appointments, or he would pick her up and she would ride with him. So there were certain conversations coming out that none of the rest of us knew about. So when he died at 46, we were all shocked, like, what in the world? Like, he was not in the very perfect health, but he was still healthy enough in our mind, based on what we saw, that he would have lived out at least to 65, 70. You know what I'm saying? So when all of that was going on with my brother, and my mother was seeing it firsthand and being there for him, things started weighing on her. But we didn't get it. We didn't know, because again, we were not there and we didn't know what she and he knew. So when he died, it took a toll on her. And there were just other things that my mother was concerned about as it relates to her home that we didn't know again. And so fast forward, she came to spend the weekend. She spent the week with my sister, who lives about 15 minutes away from me. And then she came over to spend the weekend with me. And it was April. It was the last weekend of April 2012. And my mother came for the weekend with me, and then she never left. So she got sick. She was dealing with stroke-like symptoms since that Friday. So Friday morning, she woke up dealing with stroke-like symptoms. She dealt with stroke-like symptoms all day Saturday. And then I noticed her body language a little differently late Saturday night. And I was looking at her and I started talking to her and asking her questions. And then she's like, yes, and my arm just been feeling funny all day. Now, granted, I didn't know about the whole Friday situation, and I didn't know about everything she was dealing with that Saturday. All of that came out at a later time when my two sisters and I were talking. And they were saying, yeah, because a mother talked to me this morning, she told me this. And then my younger sister was like, yeah, because when she was at the house Friday, she said this. But none of us had all of that information until after the fact. So I told my mom, I said, okay, looks like you're dragging your arm. Do you want to go to ER? And then she was like, no, I think I'm fine. I said, well, here's the deal. You say you've been feeling funny all day. I don't know what you're dealing with. I said, but if it was me, I think I would at least want to go and see what was going on with my body. I said, but I can't make you do anything. And I said, but I think I will go get it checked out. And she gave me silence. I'm like, okay. So I left it alone. And I came upstairs to get comfortable, because we had me and my mom had been out since like 7:30 that morning. We were in and out the house. And by that time, it was about 11:15 that morning. My mother was on my heels all day. Never saw any difference in her movement, her mentality, her attitude. She was with it. And so I came back downstairs and she was like, I'm ready. And I said, ready for what? And then she said, let's go to ER. I was like, oh, okay. So I came upstairs, threw on some clothes. I dropped my mother at the emergency room, the front door. She walked herself in. She answered all the questions. She checked herself in. And through each stage, the main thing was her blood pressure was extremely high. This part I didn't know until after the fact. My mother had a small blockage in the main artery that goes from the bottom of her neck to her brain. Even though her blood pressure was extremely high, it worked in her favor to shoot the blood to her brain like she needed it to. And all she really needed was, she needed the medical to watch over her, but to allow her blood pressure to accolate itself. You know what I'm saying? Adjust itself, rather. But what they did is they drastically kept manipulating her blood pressure till it was like a trickle of a movement. And it caused her to not get the blood to her brain like she needed it to. And so it opened her up to many strokes throughout the course of that night. So when my mother finally got into the room Sunday morning, and I left her that evening and told her I would be back Monday morning before I went to work, she was a totally different woman that I left that Sunday night. It affected the right side of her body. It affected her speech. It affected her vision. It affected her hearing on the right side. Like, if she didn't walk at that time, like, everything changed for her. And at the time, I had never directly dealt with a stroke situation. So there was a lot I didn't know. And so when it came time for her to go through all the the rehabilitation, all that stuff. When they released her from the hospital, they sent her over to like the stroke center, and she stayed there, and they started showing her the things that she could do and how to do those things for herself. And then so come June 11th of 2012, my mother came to live with me. So she walked herself in emergency room in April, and then I got to will her out on June 11th to come live with me. And the process began for her healing. It affected her right side, so her right leg, she did not have the control and movement of it that she had of her left leg. But even with that, my mother had started walking with the quad cane, and she was learning to trust her right side. Fast forward after that, that was a year. So we're thinking, okay, she's going to be able to return to driving again, to go back to her home again, because she was learning to walk with the limited movement of her right leg with the quad cane. She had gone away with a family member, came back totally dehydrated, and we didn't know what that meant. So we took her to the hospital, and basically, make a long story short, they kept her for 3 days, and they sent her over to a supposedly a rehab center. But what it really was, it was a nursing home that had a hall for rehab patients. They dropped my mother, didn't report it. She had a hairline fracture. What began as a hairline fracture turned into a complete hip break. And because they kept giving her therapy, because they didn't know to not give her therapy, because nobody reported that they dropped her. So she, like I said, she was in recovery mode of the stroke. She was learning to walk again, but now because of this broken hip, she was not walking again because her legs were off. So that began a totally different healing journey for us. And that's where we are. Like I had been, like I mentioned to you before we started recording, that the life chapter of wife, the life chapter of parent, I never lived out that chapter because I never got married. I never had children. And so to care for someone beyond myself to the degree that I learned to care for, and I am learning to care for my mother, has been a quite interesting journey for me. And it's interesting that I'm the child that my mother, out of 5, minus the brother that died. So out of 4 that's living, like, it's interesting that I'm the one who gets to wear this particular hat, because I never learned to give like my siblings did, because they all married. They all had children, and all of them have grandchildren, to be honest with you. I never lived out those chapters. My life had always simply been about me. If I wanted to, then I did. If I didn't want to, I didn't. If I wanted to include somebody in my life, I did. But if I didn't, I did not. I was the kind of person that on Fridays, if I had the wrong week, I would turn off my phone. And if you didn't have a key to get in my house, you wouldn't hear you wouldn't hear from me, and you wouldn't see me. So my door became a rotating door once my mother came to live with me, because of course people wanted to see her. They wanted to talk to her. They wanted to know how she was doing. And not only that, my mom, before she left her home, she was the one that would go through her address book every morning and call people every morning. You know, like she was the wake up call for some people. She was constantly had her little book. She could be out on the road with you and ask for your phone to call somebody because they was on her mind. So yeah, like she used to beat me out the house. Like, I'm a homebody. Like, I'm okay if I don't go anywhere on the weekends. But my mom was like, she would beat me out when she was here that weekend, that Friday morning before her stroke. When she came over here, I beat her home from work that day, so much to the point that I'm like, okay, I had to call her on the cell phone. I'm like, okay, where are you? And she's like, oh, I'm at this store. And I'm like, okay, well, I've been home for X time. Like, when are you going to get here? So yes, so it was a interesting learning journey for myself. And I don't know the degree for my mother, because again, her speech was affected. So even though she still gets to communicate with us and talk with us, it's nowhere anywhere near like her conversation was before the stroke. And she has always been like a soft-spoken, very present in her silence. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. but she never asked for anything. Like there was one time I had to learn to look at her and see what was going on with her, because she was having pain one day, and I don't know if it's because she didn't want to be a bother or she was truly processing what was going on with her. But I noticed a grimace on her face and her tightening up her body. So I was like, Mother, like, Mom, what's going on? Like, why did you just do that? Like, and I talked to her. I was like, okay, you just did your arm like this. You just did your leg like this. Why did you do that? Do you know why you did that? And then she looked at me for a minute. She was like, it hurts. And I said, so you're having pain? And she's like, yes, that's pain. So yeah, like she would sit there with you and won't even say, this hurts. Like she doesn't even complain. And I'm like, how in the world do I have any room to even consider complaining about how my life has changed, because I get to open my door to my mother and I'm looking at her and nothing of her life is the same. She doesn't get to just grab her keys and go get in the car and ride when she wants to. She doesn't just get to decide, I'm going to get up at this time and decide when and how she takes her bath. She doesn't get to decide, okay, I have a taste for this and I get to go in the kitchen and make that dish. She doesn't get to decide, I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to make this call. She doesn't get to decide, I want to go here on this Saturday, this weekend. That's what I'm going to do. It always begins with a conversation for anything that she wants to do. And that was humbling for me, because nothing about my life had ever resembled that. It all was a choice and a decision for me. And it just, I don't know. So like when people, I have strangers to see us out and to say thank you to me for me. And I don't know what they see when they see me with my mom. I don't know what they see when they see me push her into her wheelchair. You know what I'm saying? But I have them come up to me and say thank you for me appearing to taking care of her. And I say appearing because they don't know how well I take care of my mother, or if I take care of her in a good way or not. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, so one time I finally asked somebody, I was like, why? Because normally I'm in the hustle of what we're doing and where we're going. I'll just simply say thank you. But one day I asked why. I said, now, why are you telling me thank you for what I'm doing for my mother? And then I'm hearing, because most people wouldn't do it. Like most people will find a facility for their parents, or I've taken care of a spouse or a child before, and I know it's a lot. So thank you. And I'm like, wow. I said, and then it gave me the opportunity to say, well, I say thank you, but I really can't take the credit because I could only pour back out what was poured in. And I'm not saying my parents were perfect, but they did an awesome job with us 5 children. And there's no way that I could do half of what I'm doing had they not even given us all of what they gave us.
Yeah. You know, you touched on so many things, right? And it's kind of like choking me up, because it's so funny. Until you just said what you said, I never thought about it. My mother has a composition book, okay? She can put everything in her phone, but she has a composition book. And every day she calls a certain number of people, and she starts at like 6 a.m. And we could be somewhere. I mean, I joke with her, right? Because she drives like she has like a manual car, like a stick shift. She drives with 2 feet, but she has an automatic, right? Because that's what she learned how to drive. So she's like driving with these 2 feet, and she's on the phone. No headset. She's on the phone. But wait a minute, I just want to see how you're doing. Or like her friends or whomever, and it doesn't have to be her friend. It could just be people she knows. If they've gone through surgery or they're going through something, she cooks like a whole meal for them. Right. And she'll ask me, can you take this to Miss So-and-so? Can you take this? And they're all like, not even near where I'm going. And I'm like, all right, Mom, let me take it. And she does that. Until you said that, I never thought about it, right? And I'm thinking like, what if that was me? What if that, I was in that same shoes? Because you probably heard me tell my daughter, right? I said, you guys record everything. We only have memories.
Right.
And I want my daughter to have the same childhood as I did, because I have awesome memories.
Right.
And I didn't realize until you just said it, right, how even probably tired my mother was, right? My father, like they're exhausted, but they don't complain, and they still just do it. I didn't even realize until yesterday. My mother's like, I think I broke my rib. I'm like, what? Yeah, I think I did. But you're at work. Like, are you serious? Like, yeah, just keep on. Oh, me and so we going to the casino because she need to get out. Didn't you just tell me you're like, are you serious? You know, so what you said kind of resonated because I worked in a nursing home too, right? And I just remember these people putting their loved one in nursing homes. And these were not always older people. Some just had accidents and they were younger. And I just remember that we became their extended families because no one wanted to come and see it. And I took extra care because when they drop you off, and not always, and they say, I'll see you later, they look forward to that and they don't see you later.
Right.
You know, and you're right. Like your mother, she seemed like she was a phenomenal, but just always, like you said, calling people, always checking on people. I'm the same way. Like I couldn't even imagine putting her in a facility.
Yeah.
You know, you're right. And, you know, just for you, it was humbling because, you know, when I came on, I was like, livid. I'm tired and this. And I said to you, I said, I'm in healthcare and I'm taking care. I'm responsible for over 1 billion people, you know, and it's a lot. Any little mishap, like you just said, right? You said about your mom and how these doctors and, you know, people, if they would have just maybe taken an extra couple of minutes to communicate or anything, her life would have been different. Your life would have been different, right? And so I understand how that is. And when I say I'm responsible for people, I'm responsible, you know? And sometimes, to your point, right? We're tired too. There's people on the outside. You know, there's people who are making the decision of your life. That's not your doctors, your nurses, the people that you see. It's the people behind the scenes that makes the decision for your life.
Right.
When your doctor writes a script, there's me on the side saying, wait a minute, I'm writing a contract. So I want my job to be preferred. And your doctor's writing a script for you. Maybe he could have wrote a script for something else. But we're tired. And you know, we just keep going on and on and on. You know, and just I'm gonna let you start but finish, but you know, it's crazy because we think of these big companies. There's thousands of people that work in these companies. But it may be only 2 or 3 that work in the department that's responsible for thousands and millions and billions of people. And guess what? We got our own family. We got our own health, right? But we're responsible for a loved one that we don't know. And so some of us are on both sides of it. Because you heard me just say, like, I'm tired. I'm talking to this. I'm talking. Because guess what? I got to talk to patients too.
That's a lot.
Yes, it's a lot. And then I have to be mommy. And then I'm like, shoot, my cup is running over. And then my mother, she up, hurting. Her friend, just her close friend, amputee now. So she started, because guess what? My mother isn't the only girl. It was 6 boys. She's the baby. I'm an only child. My daughter's an only child. So guess what? It's me. So I understand what you're saying. And I'm going to tell you something. You just humbled me even more. And you know, one thing you said to me, and I was like, you know, wow. And someone else mentioned this too. I always try to give my mother at least a little something that she has given me, right? So if it's anything she wants, I'm like, here, I got it. But sometimes she just probably wants just time. And I do, right? But I realize that excuse me, I'm following the same pattern she followed. Always trying to help somebody. Here I am trying to help somebody. And at the end of the day, Ms. Delanda, I am drained. I'm drained.
So what restores you? What restores you? Because here's the thing, what I tell, like you just heard the short story of our story. Like there are times in the beginning where I just had to walk away from my mother not because of her being a burden to me. My mother was never a burden to me. It was just self-disappointment because stuff I just didn't know to do. Stuff I expected me to know to do better. things of how, because I spent so much time alone and by myself, it took me a while to be more personable, because like I was just sharing with you, my mom was very personable.
Yeah.
I was not the most personable person. And so, and I could look at her and see the softness, even in the midst of all her possible question marks of her unfolding and her readapting to life on a daily basis. Because one of the first things when she got here, when we brought her home, or when I brought her home, she was like, I was talking to her because they kept telling us she would do this. You may notice this, like all these negative things. And of course, me and my younger sister, we would rebuke that in Jesus' name. Like,
right.
We never seen any kind of demeanor like this from my mother. And they was like, yeah, but, you know what I'm saying, because of the stroke. And they had all these medical reasons to justify why my mother should be and do and act these ways. And we were like, no. And thank God we never saw any of that. Like my mother, we never had any bad situation. My mother never threw anything at us. She never yelled at us. She doesn't yell at us. Now, every now and then, if she's tired of you bothering her, she will maybe block your hand or grab your hand to tell you leave her alone. But as far as you just sitting there talking to her and her throwing stuff at you across the room, no, never. My mother doesn't curse at me. My parents never curse at us. So we never heard it, and I don't get to hear it now because that's all the things they tell me. She would spit, she would curse, she would throw, she would hit. I'm like, what? No. So we do not have to wear that hat with my mother as she learned to adjust to this life now. That's what's called her life now. But one of the challenges for her that I was able to see up front was she could hear that she knew her brain knew that it would when I talked to her and I asked her a question and her brain released whatever her answer was. It knew when she was speaking that it wasn't coming out what she had told it to say, you know? So that was one of her problems. So one time in a conversation, she was disappointed and frustrated. And then she rested her head in her hand and she was like, and she was whimpering. She was whimpering. And she was like, I can't do it. Mm-hmm. She was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I was like, Mama, you can't do what? She was like, I can't talk. I was like, yes, you can.
Take your time. I understand. You know, I have MS, right? Just calm down. It's okay. And I took the COVID shot. And I woke up the next day. And to your point, my brain was going. But I couldn't verbalize. It's almost like there was a disconnect. And I was so frustrated, right? Because I have a teenage daughter. My brain was just functioning. And when I say it was like speeding, and I could not get my sentences together. And it was like slowly I was losing control. And I don't, is of course what I have is not different than what your mother had, but it kind of is because it's the brain. And the only thing I could think, I'm on the phone with my mother, I was like, Mom, my brain is writing checks, my mouth can't cash. She's like, I was like, I said, I can't hardly walk because it's different because, with the MS, it's like you have your lesions on your brains. And even for me, when they put the shot, it was like they put in my muscle. It messes up like muscles, your nerves. And I'm like slowly, and it was weird because then I started losing my balance. I couldn't walk. I couldn't complete a sentence.
Right.
And you're right. And I just thought like, oh God, like this is not the way I wanted to go out. So to your mother, to your point with your mom, when you're independent and you're used to doing everything, and now you have to depend on people, and it's the small things, right? Like my back itch. I can't
Right.
And people, it's like small things we take for granted that we're like, your back gets scratched. No, like to button my shirt, I couldn't do it. You know, now I got to find other ways, but I don't know other ways. In my mind, my sentences are coming out, but when you hear me, you're looking like, what? Because you're not understanding. You're right, I understand. I understand what you're going through. You're hurt because, again, my mother, she was ill. We had to take care of my grandmother. She was ill. So that's why, like, and I'm sorry because I'm trying to gather yourself, but, like, you want to take care of your loved ones the way they took care of you. And at the same time, you're like, wait a minute, I don't know what to do because I didn't sign up for this. I didn't prepare for this. I don't know what to do. Sometimes, Miss Delanda, you want a shoulder to cry on too, but you know that you have somebody depending on you. You don't even know sometimes, like, it's, and I don't know if you go through this too, but it's just sometimes a shower. It's just like you don't win a lottery.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because, well, let me finish about my mother. So what I told her, and she was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I was like, Mom, first of all, I said, you're right. I said, you're right to the fact that your brain know you're saying to say, take your shirt off, but your lips are not speaking that. I said, so right now, your brain is right. Your lips are not communicating what your brain told them to. I said, but you keep talking because we're going to figure it out. I said, because I want to know what your thoughts are. I want to know what your feelings are. I said, so you keep talking. And after a while, I said, it's like a roadblock. I said, because remember, you're recovering. I said, so it's like a roadblock. And I said, you know how when we're driving somewhere and it says detour. I said, so you let your brain keep telling you what to say. I said, and it may go through a little detour. I said, but eventually it's going to land on my ears and it's going to make sense and we're going to get you exactly what you need. Or you're going to be able to tell me exactly what you want to tell me. I said, but you keep talking. It's going to require you to keep talking for you to do that. So don't get frustrated or mad with yourself because your brain hear words that your brain did not tell you to say. It's okay. I said, but you keep talking. I need you to keep talking because I need to know what you need from me. And so like, that's what helped us because, and it was one day she said something and it wasn't making sense to me. And that's another thing that you said something about me smiling because you know how some people are, what are you saying? Or what? Just be quiet. No. I said, listen, Mom, I said, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what you're saying right now. I said, but it matters to me what you want to say. I said, so please keep talking because the last thing I want you to think that I'm trying to steal your voice. I said, right now, I get to be your hands. I said, right now, to some degree, I get to be your voice. I said, right now, I get to be your legs. So tell me what you want. I said, I would never steal your voice. I said, your opinion still matters to me. You still have your opinion. You may not be able to get up and do it right away like you would want to. I said, but you still can get whatever it is that you want. I just need you to tell me. I need you to talk to me. And so my mother talked to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, if she's feeling a certain way, I'm not going to tell her to be, in the beginning, I wasn't going to tell her to be quiet and I didn't want to hear it. And even though there were some days that it was a lot for me to hear, because again, this is my mother that I'm now getting to see it in a vulnerable state. Like, I never considered seeing either. I never even considered my father not being here when I was 25. Like, what? And it's crazy because, and I don't even know if that was one of the reasons why I looked at marriage differently, but my father died a couple of days after my 25th birthday. And when I got that call that morning, I don't know why I said this, but I said, that means I can never get married. Because it was a given to me, just like I saw him walk my older sister down the aisle, that my father was going to walk me down the aisle. Mm-hmm. But now he can't. So I can't get married. Like, I don't know what made me think that. So, like, it's crazy because I didn't even realize I had internalize it that way into a conversation I had like a year ago with somebody in passing. And we were just talking about, it was my younger sister. And she was just talking about how, like, because at that time, she was she carpooled an hour one way to college. And my father died while she was in college. And there were some mornings that my mother couldn't stand to be in the house alone. And she would carpool with my younger sister to school. Like, some of her professors got to know my mom because they understood and they were caring enough to allow my sister to bring my mom to class.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, so that's the kind of we learn to do that. Like, we learn to adjust life accordingly for family. And so when it came time for her needing somewhere to go after they released her from the facility, it was never a question of what address or what location we taking her to as it relates to what facility. No, it was going to be one of her children.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and it happened to me. It was surprisingly to me at the time. I never thought about it. Now, granted, I'm the most room because, like I said, there's no one here at my home but me. But because I had never taken care of anyone to that degree, I didn't even directly think about her coming home with me. Not because she ain't coming home with me, not because of that, but because I never took care of anyone. So yeah, like it taught me, it taught and it keep teaching me a lot on a daily basis, because again, that all began for my mother in 2012. We are now in 2022, and I have still to this day never heard my mother complain. Even in pain, I've never heard her complain. I've heard her cry out because of the pain, but I never heard her complain. So how dare I?
Yeah. This is like really hard for me, I'm like, I didn't think about it. I didn't. This is crazy. Wow. And I'm always thinking, like, what if I get that call?
Mm.
Like, what if? This is really hard. Wow.
So it's we learn how to do foods differently.
Yeah.
Because like she still eat what, and granted, I had already started adjusting how I eat anyway, but basically she still eats a regular plate of meal like I would eat. I just puree her foods, because in the beginning, what my mother would do is she would chew up her food, but the fiber portion of it, she would push it forward, and she would have wads of food in her mouth.
Yeah.
And we had to figure out how to get her to eat because she was losing drastic weight. So we started calling it a bisque. Like,
Yeah.
well, we're gonna give you, like, we can well, you can have this bisque. So, but now it's like whatever. Her plate of food, we just puree with like bone broth or beef broth, and you know what I'm saying, season it a little bit more because you're adding sometimes hot water, depending on what it is. So yeah, so her meals never changed. And I tell people, mother may be more healthy than I am. It's just that she doesn't move as much. Like, that's pretty much that it really is pretty much the only difference. My mother just does not move as much. But as far as her food intake and she's healthy. Yeah.
Yeah. This was like really hard for me because you actually made me think about so many different things, and I'm like, wow, this is like really enlightening. I needed this. This is like therapy for me,
But wait, what did it make you think about?
Like even with that book, like I said, that phone book, right? And I tell them, I'm like, Mom, you don't need to call everybody every day. And I kind of joke with her, right? Because she lives in a small town. And if somebody passes, and she told me the other day, go to hell. You don't know what you're talking about. I said, Mom, if somebody passes in your town, I said, and she is over there with a whole spread of food. And she's doing everything. I said, do you call the funeral home director? His name is John. I said, you call the people and ask them who on the docket for next week. I said, because she goes to every funeral.
Oh.
She takes the family food. I mean, you could see everyone at her house. It could be the mayor, it could be the attorneys, it could be there's somebody on the street. She doesn't
Wow.
have her. She treats everybody the same, and she's always doing good. But she always in that book. And I'm like, Mom, you can put it on the phone. I'm putting in my book, and so and so ain't called me. They something wrong. But it's been a time or two where one of her friends did not call, and they were like one pass because she follows the pattern. She knows.
Right, right.
And and the thing about it, you gave me more like I'm gonna have to tell her, like I'm sorry, more humbling because I'm like, Mom, you don't need to call people every day. But some people don't have that relationship and that bond with their children. Like one of her friends, she's in and out the hospital, and I'm like, I can't wait till I see her daughter because I'm gonna tell her off. Like that's your mom. You know what I mean? And I get selfish doing that I do because I'm like, wait a minute. My mom is taking care of everybody else, right? And what if something happens to you? What am I going to do? You know what I mean? I don't want you to get sick because you're taking care of everybody else.
Right.
Because I tell you, when my mother, she passed out, she took the COVID shot, passed out at her job. And let me tell you something. When I tell you, I didn't care if I got a ticket, I'm up that road, and I'm only like 30 minutes from her, 100. Okay? That's my mother. Like, you're not going to tell me anything. I got one, and to me, she is walking on water. We disagree sometimes, get my nerves sometimes. That's my mother, and I know what she has sacrificed for me. So, whatever. You know what I mean? And so I even thought about when I got a house, I'm like, if I get a house, because my mother has, them old people have them big colonials, whatever. I said, I can't have a lot of stairs and stuff in my house because something happens. I need to be able to take care of my mother. Like, it's no question.
Right.
And that's why I began on my door. I said, you're a kid now. You don't understand the sacrifices your parents make. You're sick. They're tired. Their cup is running over. And how I recharge myself, I can't even say. I just keep going on because I know somebody out there who really going through the same thing, and I always feel like I need to help them because that's what I was taught. Family, they do different things, but in my family it was a little different because it's like the girls will do it. The girls.
You know what? It's interesting that you said that's what you were taught because with my father, I don't remember how many of them it was, but because I had a few uncles that died before I was born. Mm-hmm. So the ones that I was able to meet and have a relationship with, it was, let's see, I think it was like 3, 4, and then him. But like I said, they had other siblings. And then he had 2 sisters. But as it relates to the boys from my father's brothers, it's funny because I'm listening to you. You said that that's all how we were taught to be there. That's what I saw my father do. And for whatever reason, like it appeared that my father was the backbone or the glue for the boys. For his brothers, he was the one. I had one uncle that had excuse me, my thingy. I had one uncle that had gone to the military and it affected him. Mm-hmm. So when he came back, there were some differences. And so my father he worked for the sheriff department in our town. So whenever something would happen and my uncle was involved, they gave my father the courtesy of calling him to go to the call. And my father was one of the only ones my uncle would listen to. Like he knew how to calm him down. And then my father could draw a crowd. Like he could just wake up one Saturday morning unplanned and say, "Hey, I'm going to throw this on the grill. Y'all come over." And next thing you know, we got a yard full of people. Yeah. Like, so it's like a house full, a yard's full. And I'm like, okay, great. So you're right. Like I always saw my parents give. I always saw my parents do. I always saw my parents love on someone. I always saw my parents be the answer to somebody's need. And
Yes.
the one thing I never directly saw them is to give themselves the rejuvenation time that they should give them. I always saw them go, 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 go. But I did not learn from my parents, push pause, take this 24 hours for you. I did not see them do that. But the thing is, you have to, because you can only give someone your best when you are your best. And if you keep depleting yourself on a daily basis, you will come to the point in place that you don't even have anything to give to you.
Right.
And that's not an option.
And you explode. You heard me earlier. Like, I'm like, I've had it, right? And
Right.
growing up, and even to this day, I'm like, Mom, why? So my mother's, she's 60, she's 66. My stepfather is 79, right?
Wow.
And so we live in Jersey, but her family they're in South Carolina and then also Alabama. My mother they will go buy like a trailer or hitch or whatever and pack up a whole bunch of stuff. When I say stuff like bedroom sets and this and that, and then drive it. And I'm like, you know what? Growing up, y'all worked. You did everything for everybody. And I'm glad now they're going on vacations, but I'm like, it's not enough. Y'all do everything for so many people. Mm-hmm. When do you stop at least one day and say, you know what? I'm just going to regroup and I'm just going to like do nothing. Like when? Because to me, and I don't mean no harm, even with family stuff, but going to visit family is not always a vacation.
Right,
something
right.
You're still doing and doing and doing, you know? And again, you're right. If the church needs something, if so-and-so needs this, and if so-and-so needs that, and then here she is, only child, and she calls me Nate because my middle name, Nate, come on, let's go. So-and-so need this, so-and-so. And I'm sitting here like, Mom, I'm tired. Come on, let's go. So-and-so need that. And I mean, going down south to funerals, and you're going to take this, and you got to take it out. And I'm like, God, you're right. It's hard.
Yeah, you're going to have to charge yourself to give you 24 hours. So, yeah, you're going to have to schedule a day. Like you say, your mommy calling you, Nate, come on, let's go. You're going to have to call your mom like, Mom, Dad, come on, let's go. And you're going to have to take you guys somewhere for 24 hours and leave the phones in the car.
Yeah, I'm like, we could be somewhere. When I tell you, 6 or 7, by 7 a.m., she has done way more by 6 or 7 a.m., even my stepfather, than people have done a whole day.
Right.
He called me like, hey, what you doing? Trying to get my thoughts together. But I already know. I'm doing this. My father and stepmother live next door, and they're on different sides of the spectrum. Like, they're like, nope, we're going to take some time. But my mother and stepfather, do. I'm like, I said to her, and I have a stepsister, I said, you know what's so funny? Like, we share y'all with a whole bunch of people. We do. And as you see from me, I'm like, look, I'm human. I'm tired.
Right.
And it was probably good that you did here, because I tell my daughter, I'm like, look, stop being embarrassed. Because you know what? When you need help, you need help. And again, I have these platforms so other people can see that, you know what? You're not alone. You're not. For me, it's never downtime. And even from what you said, I'm like turning into my mother.
I mean, it could be something as simple or as a small, subtle touch of soaking in the bathtub 30 minutes, like at the end of the night.
No.
You said no.
It's quick.
So wait. Are you saying no, it's not an option, or no, you just don't do that?
Both, because I feel like I'm going from one thing to the next, you know, like,
okay, let me ask you this, you know, and I think I was having this conversation with my two sisters. We were talking how it's never a question that we're not going to be and give 100% to those around us. Why is it such a question for us to give the same to ourselves?
Good question. I don't know. Because sometimes I feel like I don't deserve it. I don't know. When I tell you, you know, because you don't question. You just do it because you feel like everybody else need help. I don't know.
And you don't need your help. You just clearly said more than once that you need your help. Now you didn't use those words, but that's what you said.
I know. You know what's so funny, because like my father, they had where we live, right? They had the house redone, right? And they put like a jet tub in there for my legs, because my legs get weak because I had the nest. Do you know I have not used that tub one time? Not once.
So when are you going to schedule you this week? Okay, today is what, Saturday? So you have look, I'm going to call you.
Please do. Please do.
You have from this Saturday to next Saturday to schedule a 24-hour period, and somewhere in there it should include that tub that they put in just for you.
You know what's crazy, because now this is weird, right? I make sure it's clean and everything, for just in case somebody comes over. You know, because my mother always said that. Make sure your house clean. Make sure you got some food done. Make sure that's just in case somebody come over. Right?
Right.
It's, I said, you know what? I'm glad, like I said, you heard me going off. Because guess what? You know that what I'm saying to you is not a joke. Like, this is my real life.
Right. Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. It's not an option for you to not pour into you, because an empty container has nothing to pour out.
Yes.
And if you're empty as it relates to those needing you, that's the one thing. But if you're empty as it relates to you needing you, that's not an option, because you're it. You're all you have.
Yeah.
Like, you can't borrow somebody else's breath of fresh air. You can't borrow somebody else's strength, and you can't borrow somebody else's. No, you got to schedule you. Like, you have to, just like you put your, do you have any pets?
I have a dog. You know the crazy part? Well, first of all, he's not my dog. He's my daughter's dog. He's 10 pounds, right? And he goes next door. I call it like the dog daycare. He goes to my parents' house every day from like 8 to 8 to like 8 a.m. to 8. So they keep him all day, right? Because they know I'm like tired. And he's very clingy, and they give him all that because to me, he's like their therapy dog.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter, she's 14. She wants to ride with her friends. Like, today, when I get off here, guess what? She already scheduled a date for us. Like, not a date for us. Her friend, she's like, Mom, can you take us to the movies? Mm-hmm. Mom, we want to sit at the movies. I'm in the movie and I'm like knocked out because I'm tired. And tomorrow she's like, oh, we're going here, we're going here. I'm like, I'm tired. I don't have it.
It's so funny that you're saying this, because I have a 7-year-old niece, my great niece. And 1 week she called me early in the week to make sure she gave me enough time to adjust. And so she says, I'm coming to spend the weekend with you on this day at this time. And then her mom was in the back. She said, no, you ask her. So she said, well, can I come spend the weekend with you on this date, this time? And I said, sure. I said, am I coming to pick you up, or your mom going to drop you off? She said, no, you're going to come pick me up at this time and I'll get home at this time. So she knew everything. Like, she knew what she wanted from me. She knew how she wanted from me, and she knew what we were going to do once she got here. And it made me think. And I was like, wow, and here you are, Delanda. You've been living with yourself for X years. And in this chapter, do you know what you want from you? And it could be one of the reasons why it's so easy for everybody else outside of you to get exactly what they want from you, because they know exactly what they want from you. And not only that, they know how to order it to get exactly what they want from you. So what is your order to you? So Dr. Lamarr, what is your order to you?
That's a good question. I do not know. I probably need to sit down and chart it. I don't even know. When I tell you that's a good question, I don't even know. Look, I can't even think about it. I don't even know. Literally all night, someone needs something. Can you do this? Can you? And I'm like, let me just take a 15 minute. I can't take a 15-minute shower because I'm in the shower. My daughter's like, Mom, can you do this? Mom, we need to go to the mall. Mom, we need. And I was like, can you just leave me alone for 15 minutes? I can't.
You know what? Now, okay, like I said, I do not have children, so I do not know that element. But I have heard it said that.
Your niece.
Well, but it's different because she's not in the house with me every night, though. You know what I'm saying? That was a weekend that she scheduled and I complied. But the thing is, I heard it said that people will take from you exactly what you let them take from you. So when you mentioned the 15 minutes and you're like, even if I'm in the shower, I'm in the bathroom, door closed, and Mom, conversation, like, why can't you confiscate your 15 minutes? Right. Do you have to respond? Outside of like, is it an emergency? No. Okay. You have no access to me until this door opens again. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, and that's not selfish for you to say, because once you come out, you're rejuvenated, you'll be replenished, and you'll be a totally new person, different person, recharged person to give even more of what is needed and wanted from you and of you. Like, we just have to, like, that's why I charge myself so much, because there were some things I had to, Delanda, I released you because in my mind, because when my mom first came to live with me, my sister changed her life too. My younger sister was homeschooling her daughter. So what she would do is she would pack up her daughter, bring her daughter to my house to homeschool from my house, so they would be here with my mother. And she's married. So she's taking care of my household to some degree. She's taking care of her household to the full degree. She's taking care of my mother's household to some degree. And then whatever calls coming from her older daughter and her husband, who worked out of town a lot. So, you know what I'm saying? So that all of those dynamics were going on. And then so the thing was, still, you have to learn to schedule you. You have to, and I told her, like, there are sometimes, like, I was still learning the balance. And so I used to spend Fridays, go into late Friday nights. And that's when I would clean. That's when I would do my serious cleaning. Well, like you mentioned, like when I moved to this place, I'm single, no family. So it didn't matter if it was 2-story, downstairs bedroom. It didn't matter to me. But when my mom came to live with me, I had to make shift downstairs because I attempted to maneuver my mom up and downstairs at night. But then I realized that's too much. That's too much. So I just made shift my living room and made her like a day bed. So her bed is downstairs, and it's like you open up my door and you're walking into a bedroom. That was an issue for me at first. I'm like, that's not what I want. But then I'm like, my back was like, chick, really get over it.
Yeah.
Because taking my mom up and down those stairs. So yes. So like the thing was like those adjustments and me realizing, Delanda, you just can't do that. So I started releasing myself because I was like working, then plugging in with my mom. And then by the time it was time for me to do the things I would expected me to do or needed me to do, it would be like 3:00 in the morning. I still ain't going to bed.
That's what I do.
No, you cannot do.
Yes, you should see 3:00, 2, 3 in the morning. I'm online or something, right? And then I still got to get up at 6:45 because I got to get my daughter ready. I got to walk the dog. And then on top of that, I got to work. You're right. So I didn't even tell you, when I was in the shower, my daughter's asking me something about this movie. My mother's on the phone because we're talking about some chicken I gave her the recipe for. So I had 2 things. And I'm like, really? Now my brain is like on this movie theater because she can't get to the movie theater because they done sold out. My mother's talking about this chicken she done made. Then on top of that, my stepfather bought like a snowblower. So he's talking about the snowblower. And I'm like, my brain is like all over the place. And I'm like, I can't even.
Yeah, you gotta release yourself. So I started releasing myself. I the first time I did it, I looked in the mirror. I was like, oh my God, because my mind, like you said, was going here, dark. I need to do this. And I took a deep breath one night, looked myself in the mirror. I was like, Delanda, I release you from expecting you to do. And I just went down that checklist, and I said, you know what? It's okay for you to go to bed. And I took my butt to bed.
Yeah.
I took my butt to bed and I started releasing myself from those things because it was too much and I was getting depleted. And guess what? The office won't trying to hear that. My mom didn't have room to hear that. And so I had to learn how to release myself from certain things and choosing the priority, taking care of that, and putting the other on the list for the next day.
Yes. You know what? Like I said, this was like really therapeutic for me because I'm sitting here like, wait a minute. I'm in bed at like 3 a.m. My phone's going to ring at like 6:30 a.m.
Right.
Because somebody needs something. Somebody's doing something. And this all like, and I don't know if I told you, but like this podcasting is so new for me because I'm so used to like behind the scenes. And to me, I was in my own little world.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So now with this, I got to open myself up.
No, you get to open yourself up because whatever it is that he put in you, it's not all for you. It's for those who will learn and benefit from it. That's the thing. And I can say this because that was the whole point of me. Like I said, I can come home and close out the world and don't see them again until Monday. But when my mom came to live with me, I had to open myself up to people.
Yes.
No, I get to share the gift that he gave to me of me with people. So you get to.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I'm like sitting here like, and then I got, like I said, the work, the this, and then it's like the extension of other people. And I'm sitting here like, and you're like, can you do this? And what they'll do with me is, and I've allowed people to do that, is forget the phone. If they can't get you, because I'm not that tech, right? They'll get you on the FaceTime or WhatsApp. The next thing you know, I got the computer and the phone ringing. I'm like, oh, are you serious?
That is too funny because even with those little technology and different ways of avenues to reach someone, it's still a call or text that you get to answer when you are available to answer. And it is okay for you not to allow them to make you accountable to their timeline if it doesn't work in yours.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, really?
Yeah, like,
Yes, but like I said, this was so helpful for me. Like, look, I'm up here, like, okay, we're gonna talk about this, and it completely because you really like helped me out so much. And I'm like, even with this little, like my mother's little book and this, that, and the other, and I'm sitting here like, okay, because even something simple is she and my stepfather at home. My mother has about 4 freezers.
Oh wow.
And the reason why is if there's a sale or something, she's like, I gotta go get this. Why? Now she cooks a lot, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Just in case somebody needs something.
Wow.
Just in case somebody needs some food or this or that. And I'm out here like, so even a couple of weeks ago, we bought like a quarter of a cow. That's a lot of meat.
I was about to say, that's a lot of meat.
Yeah. Bring it on up here. I'm like, why, Mom? You don't need. Somebody may need some food or something.
Wow.
Okay. So yeah, here I am. Got all this meat in a contractor's bag, so don't rip. It's stacked and sealed because just in case somebody needs some food. I'm like, so now we the caregivers and we the grocery stores. And on top of that, it could be anything, just in case. She's always been there, just in case somebody needs something. But you're right, we're depleted too. And it's hard because she may tell me, you need to rest. And I'm sitting there like, really? You're talking? So,
wait, do you tell her that though? When she tell you need her? And what's her response when you say, really?
Really? Well, so-and-so may need something. But what about us? And she hears me, but she doesn't clearly listen. She clearly doesn't. Because
you're going to have to whisk her off one day. And you can just don't even tell her pack a bag. You just buy some clothes when you get there. Or just,
done that,
yeah, you're going to have to tell her, like, I need you to ride with me. And you see, like, what we want? I just need you to ride with me. Next thing you know, you're in a totally different city in the hotel room. So, like, well, I don't have this. Don't worry about it. We'll get it tomorrow.
Really? Let me tell you something. I have taken her to Jamaica. We have been.
Yeah.
How did they reach you? How did they reach you? We're in Jamaica. We're in different countries. How did these people reach you? Really? My mother had been on cruises. How did these people reach you? Did you get the international plane? So
that's too funny. No, you guys need to look up a quiet retreat. When you check in, they take your phones. You can't have them until you check back out.
Yes. I'm like, really? I'm the same way. It's bad. And as you heard today, I'm up here like my cup has run over. And that's when I have to tell people too, right? If I don't answer the phone, don't call back to back to back. Because now I'm thinking something wrong. And then you're like, oh no, I just wanted to hear your voice. Really?
Okay, well, let me ask you this. And I don't know all the things you do. Is there not a certain time of the day that you can afford to turn your phone off for an hour or 30 minutes? Like, do you have to have your phone on 24 hours?
No. And you know what I probably should do is, because I never turn my phone off, and I'll tell somebody else don't turn it off just in case something happens. But you know one thing? My parents live next door, right? They could walk over and be like, hey, something's going on, if it's something.
Right.
So no, you're absolutely right. You gave me some things to think about. And you know what? I'm going to take heed. Yes, I'm turning my phone off, even if it's for an hour. Look, I need to turn off the phone and the computer, because you know how you get the phone.
Exactly. Well, okay. Electronics, all of it.
Yeah.
All of it. And then walk your little happy butt over there to that jet pool, that jet tub.
Yeah, like, and you heard, right? You probably hear this like ding, ding.
Yeah, yes, I did.
You know what that is? Somebody calling. It goes through the computer, the phone. And I don't even know how that was connected.
Yeah, I heard it. I did.
Yeah. You can't make it up. You can't make it up. Well, listen, you gave me so much to think about. Thank you so very much.
Sure.
You know what? After this, guess what? Click. I'm going to do like Erica Badu when she said, I'm going to make you put your phone down. I'm putting my phone down.
Yeah, you need it. You deserve it. You're worth it. You shouldn't have to. You should not have to be apologizing for spending some you time.
Yes.
Because no one apologized for them taking your you time. They seize it. So give you.
Yes.
And it's okay. You can do that unapologetically.
Yes, I am. I'm doing it. I'm telling you today.
Well, enjoy you today.
Yes. Thank you so very. See, I had to change it, right? Why? 3 other things got going on. Remember I said, Delanda, please, can you change it? See how my craziness infringe upon your dad? You see how that happened?
That's super. Things happen for a reason. I mean, just like, and we didn't even talk about this. For whatever reason, just the conversation didn't lead to it. But like, I'm a published author and I do inspiration fiction. And so I currently have 2 published books. The first one is Father, like Heavenly Father, Then the Eyes Can See, and Then You Taught Me. And some of my readers are hitting me up like, where's book 3?
Well, where can they find your stuff? Tell them.
Okay, well, they can connect. Well, okay, first of all, the books are available on Amazon. So you just, my name, Delanda McNair. The first title is Father, like Heavenly Father, Then the Eyes Can See. And let me explain that title so it'll make sense. Basically, was it Matthew 6:33, where it talks about seek ye first the kingdom of God. And so that was an inspiration for me for this title, because I'm gonna be honest. Yes, when I grew up, my parents took us to church. We were at church every week. I left at 18, and I did go to church, but I went because I knew when I talked to my mom, she was going to ask me 2 questions. Did you read your Bible today? And did you go to church Sunday? So I would always read my Bible, because she was going to ask me, what did I read? And even though I couldn't tell you what I got from it, because at that time, I didn't know about the different versions and translations. So I'm trying to read the original King James version at 18, right? So I was going to church every Sunday, and I would read my Bible every day. But the thing was, there were elements of my life that were not lining up to what I was reading and what I was being taught in church. I'll say it like that. And so fast forward, I am a flight attendant living in Miami, Florida. And I have a conversation with my younger sister, and it leads into me having a dream. And so it turns into a repetitive dream. So I'm thinking nothing of it because, like I said, I'm flying, I'm seeing the world, I'm good. Like this, I ain't going nowhere. And so those dreams kept coming, and I go and I talk to my sister about the conversation. Now I'm having dreams. And what happened is God started visiting me in my dreams. And that's where the book came from. Father, comma, then the I.
Wow, she'll be back on. She'll be back. Wow, this was so inspirational. It really was. Just texting her now. Wow. Well, the phone died, but this has been a great episode. It was very heart-wrenching for me. But thank you, everyone, for watching and listening and joining with us. And hopefully you've gotten some out of it that, you know what, our cup is running over and we need to save some for ourselves. We're not alone, and we always can reach out for help. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and you enjoy the rest of your day.
You've been listening to The Truth of the Matter with Dr. Spencer. Yes, we talk about taboo topics, but that's life, and we keep it real and raw. Our passion is to educate and enlighten. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review the show. And we'll be back soon. But if you have a unique relationship situation and you'd like help, or you're tired of having to choose between your career and personal life, Dr. Lamarr Renee Spencer is a life alignment strategist and a certified life, relationship, and business coach. So make sure to reach out on Instagram and TikTok at Dr. Lamarr Spencer, on Twitter at Dr. Spencer 15, on Facebook at Dr. Lamarr Renee Spencer and the website drlamarrspencer.com. Or go old school and call 973-214-6464. Don't forget to purchase the book, The Depth and Diversity with Relationships. Find it on Amazon and the website. See you next time on The Truth of the Matter.